Regardless of which type of game you're most likely to play, IEMs are a good alternative to gaming headsets. IEMs take up less space and are easy to wear for long periods, and you don't get the dreaded headphone dead. When I say for gaming, you probably thought about FPS games. Nobody seems to account for the rest of the gaming space. How about the story-driven games such as Claire Obscure Expedition 33 with tons of dialogue and an amazing backing soundtrack? Action-heavy games like Monster Hunter Wilds with the ambience of large environments and roaring of monsters 10 times your size. The cozy games where you chill on an island with cute music as you attempt to recover from the tons of debt placed upon you by a raccoon that seems hellbent on keeping you there. Regardless of what type of gamer you are, we've got a pick for you, and if you're looking for a detailed reviews on each IEM, I'll have them listed in the description below. Starting with the best overall, or for most people, are the Truth Ear Hexa. The Truth Ear Hexa is a great all-rounder that doesn't do particularly horribly in any game, with the downside that they don't do particularly excellent in any genre either. This is great if you're a variety gamer. You can also use them for editing vocals or for audio monitoring and mixing if you're a streamer or YouTuber. In gaming, they do very well overall. They aren't fatiguing to listen to over time, making them good to be used over long periods. For the fit, I could use them for 4+ hours without issue. There's a good amount of separation, which is good for competitive games where you can identify ability cues without too much difficulty. It has a decent ability to pinpoint the source of a sound. Great in most competitive shooters. They are a little on the larger size, which means you might have some issues with fit, although with my ears they fit a little on the snug side, and a little heavy but weren't uncomfortable. Going with our testing data, aside from some excess energy in the highs or less emphasis in the lows, depending on how you look at it, the Truth Ear Hexa's frequency response is close to our preference curve, which means it's likely people are going to enjoy how they sound. The Truth Ear Hexa is a great overall pick, regardless of what you're playing, even if you wish it could do better in some areas. For the best IEM for dialogue heavy and story games, our top pick is the Truth Ear Gate. For dialogue heavy games, the separation of sounds will be the top priority while keeping vocals in the front of the mix, closely followed by making sure the IEMs don't sound fatiguing after listening to them for a long time, which means we don't want too much treble energy, with comfort being the last of the priority list, as generally with story-focused games you'll be playing roughly 2 to 4 hours at a time. At least that's what you should do, but we both know neither of us is going to do that. That's the reason the topic for dialogue heavy story games is going to be the Truth Ear Gate. In games like Cyberpunk 2077, I found that the dialogue doesn't get lost in the mix even with background music and other environmental noise. High-pitched sound like the crystalline chimes aren't painful, and the Truth Ear Gate is easy to listen to for hours on end without much issues, although some might find it annoyingly unnatural due to the lack of brilliance from the treble. Wearing them for a long time at over 6 hours didn't pose any issues either. For our lab test, the Truth Ear Gate isn't a complete departure from the SoundGuys preference curve. The bass and mids are a little underemphasized compared to our preference, where normally this would indicate a lack of clarity, but it is paired with a higher energy treble from 2 kHz to 5 kHz, which tends to clear up some of the vocals. With a huge dip at 10 kHz, this tends to underemphasize spatial effects such as echo or reverb, so you are likely to hear dialogue a little easier. When using the Truth Ear Gate, you're unlikely to miss any dialogue playing games. For the best IEM for action or adventure games are the Meze Audio Alba. In action and adventure games, you probably want to immerse yourself in the action without any compromise. Explosions should rumble, the crack of ice breaking beneath your very feet painfully obvious, vehicles whooshing by with breakneck speed. You'll want it loud and in your face for the most part. One thing to be aware of is it doesn't have an included microphone, but you can easily get a replacement cable that has one built in if you need it. The Alba has a deep and punchy bass, but not so much that it muddies the overall sound, and there are times where the treble feels painful to the ears, something we actually want when being immersed, to feel that building fall and crumble with each glass panel at a time. Bass from explosions have enough pressure that you can feel the rumble, the vocals stand out, feeling forward in the mix even when in busy scenes. The stereo imaging feels like sounds pan from left to right incredibly fast, and constantly feels close. Our testing shows that the Meze Audio Alba follows the SoundGuys headphone preference curve pretty closely. The bass is close to our preference, combined with the mids that dip from 150Hz to 500Hz. It tends to result in the bass sounding louder than the mids. There's a dip in the treble at 12 kHz, which can lead to the underemphasis of spatial effects that your brain uses to process spatial width and depth. The slight elevation at the 5 kHz to 7 kHz can sound painfully sibilant or harsh, adding to the immersion of the crack of gunfire. According to MDAX, the Alba have the immersiveness score of 3.3 and is normally the score to look out for when trying to determine what sounds immersive for most people. Typically, IEMs fall into 2.7 range since they pump sound directly into your ear canal without affecting the pinna, the little fleshy ear part. When playing action games with the Meze Audio Alba, I'm confident that you're going to enjoy how they drop you deep into the action. For those that want to relax instead, the best IEM for cozy games we've picked is the Moondrop Chew 2. For cozy games like Animal Crossing and Tamagotchi Plaza, you're going to want to prioritize comfort. You don't want anything getting in the way between you and staying on the couch for hours playing a short hike instead of going on a short hike, or neatly aesthetically arranging a room in the game unpacking while being buried in a blanket instead of cleaning your room. I'm definitely totally not speaking from experience at all. The Moondrop Chew 2 are very small and comfortable. I was able to wear them all day without any issues. The vocals feel like they're a little behind the bass in other instruments, and there isn't any painful sibilance or overbearing sub-bass that would make them feel fatiguing to listen to over time. It's not the most detailed to listen to, but it never feels tiring to my ears. Looking at the testing data from the lab, it shows that the Moondrop Chew 2 is close to our preference curve. The dip in the 500Hz region can lead to an underemphasis in some vocals. The dip in the 7kHz region can cut through some of these sibilants, making it easier to use for longer periods at the expense of high-pitched sounds like xylophones or chimes feeling dull. Now, for the sweaty gamers, the best IEM for competitive shooters is the Orvetti Black Dynabird. For competitive shooters, what is more important is sound separation and isolation. Sound separation because you don't want to miss audio cues such as the enemy trying to flank you or third party coming from behind, despite the loud and terribly obvious sounds of a firefight going on. Isolation as it won't matter if you aren't blocking out as much of the outside world as possible, leaving spatial width and depth last, despite most people paying the most attention to this. The more accurate your spatial width, the better you're able to tell the direction of the flanking enemy. The easier it is to pre-aim at the location of where they're likely to break cover in Valorant or CS2. With good spatial depth, you'll find it easier to tell how far a firefight is, the easier it is for you to make decisions of where to go on the map if you're playing a battle royale such as Apex Legends or Fortnite. While it doesn't have an included microphone, if you're a real competitive gamer, you probably already have an external microphone. The Orvetti Black Dynabird has great separation. I was easily able to separate gunfire, enemy movement, ability cues, and team communication. The bass doesn't lose rumble, it's never overbearing, and doesn't cover up team communication. The treble doesn't have any sharp sibilants that can be distracting. The fit on the stock ear tips are great, and I find that despite only having passive isolation, it tends to block out a good chunk of noise. For spatial depth and width, it's odd that I can even tell if a sound is coming from behind me with scary accuracy. Unlike most IEMs where you can only tell that it's from behind, it's even more accurate to the sides and front, to the point that I can differentiate sounds above and below me. Compared to our preference curve, our tests from the lab show a considerable dip at 125Hz, which can make a lot of people's voices sound less bassy, tending to add perceived clarity for most voices. The Orvetti Dynabird is underemphasized in the mids up to 1000Hz. This can lead to a tinny sound when paired with energetic treble. Gladly, that's not a problem with the Dynabird. There are sections in the treble that have a dip in comparison to the preference, especially at 11kHz, which reduces the spatial effects like echo and reverb, clearing up team communications. With the MDAX, they scored a 3.4 in immersiveness. This would lead you to believe that you are unlikely to pinpoint the location of a sound. However, you'll have to keep in mind that 2.7 is the average for IEMs with this testing method. It's more of an indicator of how likely you're going to have the ability to pinpoint the location of a sound. If competitive gaming is your main focus, the Dynabird will bring you higher in the rankings. Do you agree or disagree with the list? Let us know in the comments below. Perhaps you've tried an IEM we haven't tested yet. Maybe you'll help out someone else in the comments. Check out this video if you're more into gaming headsets for some reason, big and bulky things. Then again, some people have small ear holes, aka ear canals.